Afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody who is joining our program tonight. We appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you for being here. Folks, I want to talk about earthquakes literally all over the world right now. I'm first going to start off with the largest earthquakes that have hit, and then I'm going to cover two different and specific places that everyone needs to be aware of. I appreciate you all being here. I hope we'll have more mods than this. Right now we have Demon Catman from the east of England. Demon Catman, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Juanito from El Centro, California is here. My dear friend S. Nort is also here. Thank you guys. We appreciate and love you very much. Storm Rider is here. Aubrey is here from South Dakota. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. Now, first, I want to talk about the largest earthquake that has hit today over in Papua New Guinea. This earthquake is a large earthquake. It's a 6.0 very strong earthquake. As I've stated, a 6.0 to a 6.9 are considered to be very strong earthquakes. 5.0 to 5.9 are large earthquakes, with 5.5 to 5.9 being very, shall I say, dangerous earthquakes, very large but very dangerous earthquakes. 6.0 to 6.9, like I said, are considered to be very strong earthquakes, and everything 7.0 and larger are considered to be major earthquakes. This earthquake was a 6.0 magnitude earthquake. This hit at just about 1:13 a.m. Thursday morning over there in Papua New Guinea. This particular island that was hit, Kimball, Papua New Guinea, is very sparsely populated. Because of the epicenter where it hit, we don't believe that, and we have not received any notification of anybody injured or property damage. It's very sparsely populated, so if anybody was even hurt, we may not hear about that until at least tomorrow or maybe Friday. But right now, this 6.0 hit in Papua New Guinea about 1:13 a.m. On Thursday morning, Papua New Guinea time locally. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about this region. We've been watching this area for a lot of years now. We've seen 7.0s and 7.4s hitting here. Now, even though there's no reports of any damage or injuries, there was no tsunami warning issued either. Usually we see tsunami warnings issued when the earthquake is at least 6.5 or larger, anywhere. It doesn't really matter where it is. They don't get put out unless there's really some reason to put out a warning about earthquakes in that region. Okay? It's just not going to happen. Now, we've had a lot of flack about that. I'm not the one that issues tsunami warnings. I want to make that very clear. The National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration is the one agency in the United States federal government that issues tsunami warnings. They issue tsunami warnings all over the world. Okay? I have nothing to do with that. Nothing at all. Now, folks, that's not the only earthquake that hit. Yesterday, those of you that are here may have also seen Mark Wages from Wages World in our chat. I told you then I welcomed him there. Mark Wages comes in and watches our programs. Why? Because the solar activity that Mark talks about, and Mark has even forecasted that would hit the Earth, Mark Wages knows that the solar activity that is launched from the sun affects the Earth and all the other planets. Okay? He knows that. Mark is no dummy. He's very, very, very smart man. His expertise in his own mind has been the sun, and I respect that. He's an expert. Okay? He's an absolute expert when it comes to solar activity. The sun lit up the other day, and some of that plasma radiation that was launched from the sun has already hit the Earth. It will hit the Earth for sure tonight into tomorrow. But this has caused earthquakes, and we've seen a great deal of large earthquakes around the Earth today. This 6.0 in Kimball, Papua New Guinea is just one example of that. Okay? Now, one other earthquake south of Australia I want to talk about. This is southwest of the Kimball earthquake. This is south of Australia. This is over on the Antarctic ridge south of Australia. Okay? This was a 5.5. Okay? This is a very large 5.5 magnitude earthquake south of Australia today. The USGS is in the western Indian Ocean Antarctic ridge. It's not in the western anything. Yes, it's in the Indian Ocean south of Australia. That's how USGS should have put it. Okay? The western Indian Ocean is closer to Africa, not Australia. Okay? So USGS screwed up there. This was at least a 5.5 earthquake. At least a 5.5 earthquake. It may have been even larger than that. This is a huge fault zone. The Antarctic ridge has been known to have large to major earthquakes all around the Earth on the Antarctic ridge. We have seen that. We've covered the earthquakes that have hit. So this was at least a 5.5 earthquake. Now, besides that, over in Indonesia, in the Banda Sea, a large 5.1 earthquake hit there approximately 12:39 p.m. Eastern Time today. This was a large earthquake. It was felt in northern Australia. It's felt in Darwin, Australia, and northern Australia. To the northwest from there was another very large earthquake. This earthquake could have been probably a 6.0. USGS calls it a 5.8. Okay? I'm going to tell you, this is in west central Indonesia. Valdese, Indonesia. 106 kilometers southeast of Valdese, Indonesia. This is out in the ocean. Okay? This is out in the ocean, right smack dab in the middle of a bunch of islands there in Indonesia. A 5.8 earthquake is very dangerous. Just like the 6.0 is very dangerous as well. Any 5.0 and larger is dangerous, plain and simple. But you get these upper fives here, 5.5 and larger, such as that 5.5 on the Antarctic ridge south of Australia, I'm telling you folks, that's dangerous. Plain and simple, it's just dangerous. And to have a 5.1 over in the Banda Sea, south and east of this location, it just tells you that there's a lot of energy there. A lot of 5.0 and larger seismic energy down in the Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, and the Philippine area. We've seen it happen. We've seen it happen. 3.5 months ago, we had a 9.0 to 10.0 hit off the northeastern edge of Mindanao, Philippines. There was some concern there because there was a tsunami warning issued. For the Philippines, Indonesia, and even up and towards Japan. It was later retracted and there was hardly any tsunami at all, maybe a 2-foot tsunami max. Okay, that's 2/3 of a meter. Okay, but here in near Modisi, Indonesia, like I said, this is right smack dab in the middle of islands there in central western part of Indonesia. In the ocean there, it can still cause problems. This could have been a 6.0. Okay? In all actuality, it probably was. We know that the United States Geological Survey, which is supposed to be the preeminent seismic agency for the world, downgrades quakes. They do it all the time. The European agency looks at the USGS. If the USGS downgrades a quake, they usually do too. On very few other occasions, the EMSC European agency has had earthquakes larger than what USGS put them at. That has happened. Again, this is at least a 5.8 earthquake in west central Indonesia. And there are also all kinds of other quakes there that they are not even showing. Aftershocks from both of these earthquakes, both the 5.1 in the Banda Sea and this 5.8 in west central Indonesia. Aftershocks all over that area that they're not even showing. That's a sad day. There's about 30 earthquakes in Indonesia today. 30 earthquakes besides the large earthquakes there and that 6.0 out to the east over in the Papua New Guinea area. Okay? So we've had 4 earthquakes in the Indo-Pacific region. Okay? 1, 5.5, south of Australia on the Antarctic ridge, and then that 6.0 over in Papua New Guinea, 5.1 in the Banda Sea, and over near Modisi, Indonesia, all of a sudden we have a 5.8. That is a lot of seismic energy. And I believe the seismic events are still locked up in that area. Why? I've explained this before, okay? The area between Australia, Indonesia, and the Philippines is a huge subduction zone. The subduction goes all the way east over to Samoa and Tonga. It goes all the way west over towards India, encompassing Burma, Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia, that whole region, okay? 7 different subduction, or 7 different tectonic plates in that huge subduction zone. Now, as I've explained these tectonic plates subducting, 7 different plates in this subduction zone that we're talking about right now. Subduction means one tectonic plate going under another, just like this. In this region, there's 7 of those tectonic plates, one subducting under another, just like this. Just like that. Now, before we go anywhere else, okay, I also want to talk about New Zealand. Okay? New Zealand is a country that is right on a subduction zone. The eastern side of New Zealand, and we've shown you these pictures before, Since I'm on my phone tonight, I'm not showing you the picture of New Zealand as you would see it on the USGS map. But you can look at it yourself. You can think of it as New Zealand yourself. Over on the eastern side of New Zealand, there's a huge huge earthquake fault coming out of Tonga and Fiji. Huge fault zone coming out of Tonga and Fiji. It runs on the east side of the North Island of New Zealand. They call it Raoul Island. It runs on the east side of there. Folks, this is just part of that subduction zone that we've been talking about. Now, back in the 1970s, we saw a 6.0 earthquake hit near Christchurch, New Zealand, over in the South Island of New Zealand. There was death down there and damage over there, all over Christchurch, New Zealand, and the suburbs of that city. Okay? Christchurch downtown was devastated. They have since rebuilt it for the most part. But there have been other earthquakes as well. Over off the North Island, they had an 8.4 earthquake back in the 1800s. An 8.4 earthquake back in the 1800s. Folks, scientists are now saying that New Zealand could actually have another major earthquake coming up towards even an 8.0 quake in New Zealand in the next 50 years. In the next 50 years. Now, why am I talking about that? I want everybody to be aware of it. New Zealand got hit with a 4.5 today. New Zealand keeps getting hit by 2s and 3s, 2.0 to 2.9 and 3.0 to 3.9. They continually get hit by those kind of earthquakes. Minor earthquakes, 2.0, 2.9, and small earthquakes, 3.0 to 3.9. When they get hit with a moderate earthquake, 4.0 to 4.9, that one was a 4.5, they can expect moderate damage. As I've explained that before, pictures and things falling off walls, knickknacks and books falling off of shelves, plates in the kitchen areas and dining areas rattling around, possibly even falling off of the shelves and breaking. Moderate damage. Los Angeles, as I explained last night, had a 4.5 earthquake, and I believe it was much larger. I believe it was at least a 5.0. And they had damage throughout Los Angeles, major damage. That's why I believe it was a lot larger than they said it was. And we know for a fact that the USGS does nothing but lie. I don't believe the United States Geological Survey can even tell the truth. Number one, the politicians won't let them. Number two, I don't believe the managers are capable of telling the truth at all. My own personal opinion. Yes, I would love to take over the USGS and make it fly right. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. Okay? Dwayne says he still loves the picture of Jesus right above me. I do too. It's my favorite picture. Anyway, going on. I'm going to touch on all the other earthquakes that have been hitting around the world today. Then I'm going right back up north to the Cascadia subduction zone region. First, over to South America, okay? Right along the coast of northern Chile. And this is a huge seismic zone. Typically, we can see 20 earthquakes just alone in the northern Chile area. Today, we have large earthquakes there, literally, okay? Just off the coast, we had a very large earthquake hit, Okay, just now, within the last 30 minutes. It was a 5.0. I called it a very large earthquake because I believe it was. Okay, I believe it was much larger earthquake. Also within the last 40 minutes, we got hit with a 4.3 there. It was an aftershock. The 4.3 moderate earthquake was an aftershock. The aftershock was 24 kilometers deep. The 5.0 was different. Okay? The 5.0 was 11 kilometers deep, much shallower than the aftershock. Isn't that amazing? That's why I'm saying that I believe this earthquake, this 5.0, was larger. Okay? And there was a lot more aftershocks than just the 4.5. Earlier today, Camina, Chile, inland, the inland part of the the Andes Mountains there. The western side of the Andes Mountains got hit with another large earthquake, a 5.3 earthquake. This occurred at 5:30 a.m. this morning Eastern Time. This was 79 kilometers north of Camina, Chile. Okay? This earthquake was even deeper than the others that just hit. This earthquake was 114.5 kilometers deep. Okay? But this is still relatively shallow earthquake. Okay? A total of about 40 earthquakes have hit Chile today. Okay? USGS will never show them. An earthquake over in Peru, southern Peru, Oiolo, Peru. This was a moderate 4.7 earthquake. This, folks, was 80 kilometers deep. This is also over in the southwestern Andes Mountains of Peru. Now, why are we getting hit with earthquakes here in this region? Except for the two earthquakes that just hit. Those were slightly out to sea off the coast of Chile. But over on the western side of the Andes Mountains there in northern Chile, we had that 5.3 near Camina, Chile. Okay? That was in the mountainous areas of Chile, the Andes Mountains, the western side. There are volcanoes there, guys. There are all kinds of volcanoes stretching from northern Chile down towards Valparaiso, Chile, in the Andes Mountains. A lot of volcanoes. Some of them are named volcanoes. Others are cones or vents that have erupted there in the Andes Mountains. Okay? That's what's going on. Even over in Peru. Okay? We have two volcanoes in southern Peru, near Tacna, Peru. One is Sabancaya. It is very famous, and it has erupted many times even this year. The other one, I don't remember the name of it, but it's just like Ulawan over in Papua New Guinea. It's got a very similar name. Those two volcanoes have been erupted off and on in southern Peru for a long time. Sabancaya has been erupted almost every other day over there in southern Peru. It's a very active volcano. It erupts up to 10 to 15,000 feet at the drop of a hat. But again, this earthquake in southern Peru is only a 4.7 earthquake, a moderate 4.7 earthquake. Now, the United States Geological Survey is not showing any other earthquakes than what I've talked about. But there's earthquakes all around the Craton edge, the edge of the plate over there in South America. From Colombia all the way down south towards Valparaiso, Chile. Okay, that's the edge of the plate, the Andes Mountains. The Andes Mountains as they curve around from Venezuela and Colombia and curve around Ecuador, Peru, and over to Chile. Okay, it's the edge of the plate there. Now, just off the coast of Colombia and Ecuador, we've had another earthquake over off the coast of South America. This, folks, is probably 2,000 miles off the coast of South America. This is over in the Galapagos Islands, okay? This is a 4.6 earthquake, okay? A 4.6 earthquake, almost, well, I'm going to say about 155 miles, 186 kilometers off the coast of Ecuador. It's in the Galapagos Islands. Now, there's also a volcano over in the Galapagos Islands that's been erupting. The volcano is on an island over in the Galapagos Islands. Nobody lives on that island. That island has had turtles on it, and I believe the turtles have probably already evacuated that island and swam over to another island. Okay? But that island has been erupting. It's been pouring lava down the slope of the volcano. And, folks, from the summit of that volcano, it's been throwing fountains of lava up. Incandescent, red-hot lava up in the air. Okay? That's what's going on over there. That volcano doesn't erupt that often. Maybe once a year. But the volcano over in the Galapagos Islands is erupting right now. Because of the lava flow, it may make the island bigger. However, the lava flow has slowed down. So scientists are not too concerned about the sea life in the area right now. The lava flow has slowed down, and I believe it's probably just going to stay on the island. But there is a possibility that it could extend the island out if that lava flows out to sea. Right now, we don't believe it will. Over in Central America, we have probably 12 earthquakes in Central America, but USGS is not going to talk about those. Okay? We have 3.5s, 3.4s, 3.9s, as well as a couple of 4s, I think it's 4.4, 4.6 over there in Central America. And I'm talking about Costa Rica going up into Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Guatemala. In Mexico, there are about 20 earthquakes, 19 or 20 earthquakes right now in southern Mexico. From southern Mexico near the Guatemala border all the way up to Puerto Vallarta. Okay? Earthquakes hitting that entire area. Now, what is going on? We've talked about this before. Far north up in Northern California, we have the San Andreas Fault. And it goes down out of the ocean in Northern California where it meets up with the Cascadia subduction zone and the Gourd Escarpment that flows west from the California coast 250 miles out west into the Pacific. At the triple junction where the Gourd Escarpment and the Cascadia subduction zone are, we have the San Andreas Fault. And it goes over towards Northern California, follows down the coast of Northern California until right before it gets over to San Francisco, and all of a sudden it goes right on the western side of San Francisco Bay. Then it goes inland, and it continues inland all the way down into Southern California. After that, it goes into northern Mexico and goes out into the Gulf of California. And it continues to follow that area right down the middle of the Gulf of California, and it follows the coast of Mexico all the way down until the Cocos Plate. in central Mexico, or Central America. It meets the Cocos Plate down there. Okay? A very, very dangerous earthquake fault. That is one of the reasons we have so many earthquakes in Central America and also over in Mexico along the coastal areas of Mexico. The San Andreas Fault. It's a very dangerous fault. And those earthquakes coming from Central America and southern Mexico make their way north into California up the San Andreas Fault. On the same token, from the north, we have earthquakes migrating from up in Northern California all the way down south into Northern California, Central California, and down into Southern California. Okay? Hope everybody understands that. I want to make sure everybody sees that. Okay? It's very important that you understand where these earthquake faults are. They are going to affect each one of us. And it doesn't matter whether you live in England or Sweden and Denmark and Norway and Finland, or whether you live over in Japan or South America or Mexico. It really, or even up into Canada. It doesn't matter where you are. These earthquakes are going to affect you. They're going to affect you. Promise. Now, I'm going to continue here. I want to make sure we talk about all of these earthquakes here in the Pacific. Now, we talked about South America. We talked about Indonesia. The USGS does not say anything about the Philippines. What a waste of time with the U.S. agency. They're worthless. Okay? However, they have talked about an earthquake off the northeast coast of Taiwan. And I want to make mention of it now. Why? Because these are moderate earthquakes. A 4.1 moderate earthquake hit early this morning at 9:36 a.m. Eastern Time here in America. A moderate 4.1, a very minor moderate quake. But that earthquake also spawned an aftershock, a 3.7 aftershock. Now, the bigger quake hit earlier, okay? The 4.0 hit at 9:36, the 4.1. The smaller earthquake, the 3.7, hit at 9:52. Okay, what is that? 16 minutes after the 4.1, the 3.7 hit. Isn't that interesting? It did not take very long for an aftershock to hit. Sometimes we don't even see aftershocks from moderate quakes. Sometimes we don't. It's interesting how that happens. Now, that's over in Taiwan to the west. Okay? Seismic energy is flowing out of the South Pacific. It's going west and going north. We've already seen over in Indonesia, and they're not even talking about half the earthquakes in Indonesia today. Now we're going up on the western side of the Pacific. Taiwan. Right between Taiwan and Japan, guess what? Over in the Ryukyu Islands, we have another earthquake. This is also a 4.7 moderate quake. This is east of Isen, ISEN, Japan. 85 kilometers east of Isen, Japan. This is 25 kilometers deep. A 4.7 moderate quake. Nobody felt this. It's out in the open ocean of the Pacific here. Okay? Bordering the South China Sea. Interesting enough. Over in Japan. Japan is only talking about one earthquake off the coast of Honshu today. This was a moderate 4.6 earthquake. Okay? 30 kilometers east of Iwaki, Japan. But over on the western side of Japan, in the Sea of Japan, on the Noto Peninsula, we've had 3 more aftershocks of an 8.4 earthquake that hit here 3 months ago, killing a lot of people and injuring even more, flattening people's homes and businesses there in Japan. USGS does not even mention that. Okay? It's like they don't care. They don't even care. Now, yesterday I failed to mention a 4.5 earthquake off the southeastern coast of Kamchatka Peninsula. Japan, Hokkaido, right here, and between Hokkaido and Kamchatka Peninsula, we have the Kuril Island region, an expanse of water that has tiny islands between Hokkaido and Kamchatka Peninsula. All the Kuril Islands there belong to Russia. And we have earthquakes and volcanoes all over the Kuril Islands out there. All those islands and every island that we know of was formed by volcanoes. There's even one volcano that keeps erupting in the Kuril Islands just south of Kamchatka Peninsula. It's called Ebeko Volcano. Ebeko Volcano, E-B-E-K-O Volcano. There's 5 volcanoes on the Kamchatka Peninsula. And yes, some of them are erupting to one extent or another. But that 4.5 off the southeast coast of Kamchatka Peninsula is going to make its way into the Aleutian Island fault zone. The big fault zone that runs from the Kamchatka Peninsula over here on the western Pacific all the way over into Alaska. Okay? We're going to see that 4.5 end up in the Aleutian Islands. Okay? USGS is not saying anything about the Aleutian Islands today, except for one earthquake that is south of the peninsula of Alaska. Okay? It's 154 kilometers, about 142 miles southeast of Perryville, Alaska. This is a 3.0 earthquake. Now, why are we talking about Perryville with that 3.0? Just a small quake out in the northern Pacific. Because, folks, let's see, it was more than 2 years ago. It was about 3 years ago. We had a 7.9 in this area as well. 3 years ago. Just before that, we had an 8.7 there off of Sandpoint, Alaska. Same area. A major 7.6 earthquake and an 8.7 earthquake. Both major earthquakes causing damage. Tsunamis. Both these earthquakes were offshore from the Alaska Peninsula, but they did cause damage. Major earthquakes in this area cause damage when they're not that close to shore. Okay, they set off tsunami sirens all over southern Alaska, especially over there in the peninsula. Okay, but before that, 1 year before that, we had a 7.0 over in Anchorage. Good old Anchorage, Alaska. We've had minor and small earthquakes in that same area, but nothing major. The Alaska area there, the Gulf of Alaska, and that area around the Denali National Park area, folks, it's harboring major seismic energy. It's harboring major seismic agency. We've had numerous large and major earthquakes happening way down in the southern part of the world, the southern part of this earth. That energy has made its way around towards the Aleutian Islands and over into Alaska. It's now sitting there. It's not dormant. It's not dormant at all. It's sitting there. All we're seeing now over in Alaska are minor and small earthquakes so far. So far. We've had one large earthquake, a 5.1 over in Salcha, Alaska, over in the northern part, just to the north of Denali National Park. 5.1. We haven't seen much of anything else. But I'm warning you, all of you that live in Alaska, you're going to get it very soon. I don't know the day or the time, but you're going to get hit very soon with a large to major earthquake. It's going to happen. And Anchorage may be the epicenter where that earthquake hits. I just don't know. Okay? I'm just warning everybody again. I warned you before the 7.0 hit in Anchorage before. I put out that warning a week before, and then it got hit. It's going to get hit again. Northwest of Denali today, we had a 2.1 earthquake. A 2.1 earthquake near Lake Minnetonka, Alaska. Say that fast 5 times. Most of our earthquakes now are in southern Alaska. Some of them are just south of Denali National Park. Such one like a 2.5 that is south of Denali today. A 2.5 minor earthquake there. It's happening. Over just around Mount McKinley. This can be over on McKinley or on the south flank of McKinley. There's another 1.7 tremor. Okay. Now, this is what Denali National Park looks like if you look at it like a map on the map. Okay. That whole area gets hit. From southern Denali all the way up into northern Denali and even out east of Denali. They get hit with earthquakes on a regular basis. Just north of Denali National Park today, they were hit by a 2.0, this time east of Perry, Alaska, which is just north of Denali. Okay? A 2.0 earthquake there. We have minor tremors and earthquakes hitting over near Valdese, Alaska. Okay? That's on the north side of the Gulf of Alaska. Valdese, Alaska. It's a seaport. Valdese, Alaska is a seaport there in Alaska. Okay? Then we go over to southeast Alaska. We're talking about the coastal area, Yakutak, Alaska. Okay? We've had numerous 2.0, 2.2 earthquakes there. Okay? Now, I know I'm missing Europe. Okay? We've been talking a lot about Europe all week long. I want to go now over to way southeast in Alaska, over to Sitka, Alaska. We have a volcano that is having tremors and microquakes. USGS is telling us about another microquake at Sitka volcano today. A 0.3 microquake hit the volcano, and it's not the only one. I don't know why USGS is just pointing out a microquake, but they are. It's not the only microquake and not the only quake that's hit there. There's numerous other tremors as well. Sitka volcano, for the longest time, they said was semi-dormant. Not extinct, but dormant. It's not dormant any longer. All the volcanoes all around the world are waking up, just like Sitka volcano is. We've been telling you that this volcano is getting hit quite frequently now. It's getting hit almost every day, if not every day. Okay? I want to make that perfectly clear. You need to hear this. Okay? Everybody in Alaska needs to hear it, and everybody over in Canada needs to hear what I'm saying here. Brother Rob, my friend, Rob52 is here. He's one of my best friends and one of our mods here. I spoke to him earlier this afternoon. I appreciate Rob very much being a mod. I appreciate all of our mods. I am very good friends with a lot of my mods here. I love each and every one of you. I love all of you guys that are here watching this program. We have probably 2,000 or 3,000 people today watching this program. Yesterday, we had over 3,000 people watching this program. We love and appreciate each one of you. Now, over off the coast of Western Canada, the Canadian Earthquake Agency is reporting tremors and small earthquakes over off the western side of Canada. Some of the earthquakes, I should say most of those earthquakes, have happened within the last week. Some are happening today. Okay? That whole area is very active. Over off the northwest corner of Vancouver Island, approximately 4 years ago, we had 4 7.0 earthquakes hit over there in the North Pacific off the coast of Vancouver Island. 4 major 7.0 earthquakes hit within a matter of 3 hours. It was Christmas Eve that year, December 24th. I was on my knees begging Heavenly Father not to have a major earthquake over in the Pacific Northwest on Christmas Eve. Millions of people could be affected by a Cascadia earthquake hitting, let alone on Christmas Eve. As it stands, the 7.0 earthquakes did not kick off Cascadia. They very much could have. Okay? Now, I've talked about Cascadia before, even this week. Why am I talking about it again? I talked about it yesterday. Someone in the chat thought I was yelling at all of you. I was not. I want to make something perfectly clear. Please do not misunderstand me. Number one, I'm not yelling at you. I'm not mad at any of you. But folks, we need to get serious about what's going on in the Pacific Northwest. We need to get very serious. Now, we expect a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake to hit off the coast of Seattle, either on the Cascadia subduction zone, which is a fault zone that runs from Queen Charlotte Island on the north in British Columbia all the way down to Northern California. It runs along the coastline just off the coast, the Cascadia subduction zone. Over in the north part of the Cascadia subduction zone, off the coast of Seattle, possibly even further west over the Juan de Fuca fault zone, we expect that Cascadia megathrust earthquake to hit there. That's where it hit before. We expect it probably will hit the same place again. Now, with that said, some of you may know the name Captain Ned. Captain Ned and I talked early this afternoon. Captain Ned used to live very close to Mount Rainier. He and I have had a lot of talk going on between us for years. Captain Ned is not liked by this venue that we're using here to broadcast on. They don't like him at all. They took his channel off the air. Folks, he used to live in the Cascadia subduction zone right there near Mount Rainier. Now, I have made known to you what has been going on over there in Washington. I have made it very clear what's going on with the volcanoes there. Please don't misunderstand me. Please don't misunderstand me with this. Things are happening. Things are happening, guys. Seismic energy is real. When Ned used to live in the Cascadia subduction zone near Mount Rainier, he could feel the thumping of the magma as it crossed through the earth. He could feel and sometimes even hear the thumping going on as the magma went through the crust of the earth that we walk on. He felt it. It's very real. It is very, very real. Anatolian, please save that question for the end of this program. I want to answer it, but not right now. Please, folks, stay with our program. Talk about the things we're talking about. And trolls, you need to leave this program and leave this program immediately. Okay? You need to leave this program immediately. You don't need to be here. Anyway, what is going on? I showed you 7 4.0 and larger earthquakes hitting Mount Rainier yesterday. I showed you the documents, the seismograms, scientific evidence that they're hitting there. And USGS has not seen a darn word about it. Not one word. I showed you Mount St. Helens as well. Both of those volcanoes are going to erupt. And it's very possible they could erupt imminently. And yet no one is talking about it. Nobody is talking about it. Now, folks, people need to care because millions of lives are in the balance here. Millions of lives are at stake here. Vancouver Island, Vancouver, British Columbia, the town, Seattle, and all the suburbs around Seattle as well, and south around Portland. All those people that live up and down the entire coast, all the way into Northern California, need to be very concerned. Because when the Cascadia megathrust earthquake happens, it's going to affect the entire west coast of Canada, Alaska, and the entire west coast of North America, going all the way down towards the Mexican border. Everywhere. Everywhere. Millions of lives are going to hang in the balance. And I'm not joking at all. People's lives are in the balance. Okay? I'm not joking. I am very, very serious. I am very, very serious. I can't be any more serious than you see me now. It could happen anytime. Literally. They could happen at any time, place, everywhere. You need to know about it. You need to be very serious about what's going on. People are going to die. People are going to be injured. And some of those people could be you. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake is going to contain itself across the entire country of Canada and across the entire country of North America, the United States. And it could affect people down in northern Mexico as well. Not just on the Cascadia subduction zone. The Cascadia subduction zone, ladies and gentlemen, oh gosh. The Cascadia subduction zone can trip the San Andreas Fault. It was talked about in 2019 in San Francisco at a seismologist convention there. The lead seismologist and professor of seismology over at the University of Oregon, Christopher Goldfinger, spoke at that convention and said that this fault zone, the Cascadia subduction zone, can trigger the San Andreas Fault. And like I said near the beginning of this program, the triple junction where the Cascadia subduction zone here meets the Gorda Escarpment that goes out west into the Pacific, and the San Andreas Fault that meets the Cascadia subduction zone goes all the way down and through California. And the 10.0 earthquake can trigger the San Andreas Fault right here. Meaning every place else in Northern California, going all the way down into Southern California, can see major devastation happen as a result of that earthquake. Yeah, that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. Now, we continue to see it. We continue to see this day in and day out. These volcanoes are ready to erupt. The last time the Cascadia subduction zone was hit by that major earthquake, the Cascadia megathrust earthquake, was 234 years ago. Now it's 34 years past due. Scientists were saying just 5 years ago that it was probably going to happen, the earthquake is probably going to happen in the next 50 years. Well, folks, let me tell you this. When that earthquake happened, There was a sailor in a boat offshore from Washington. He saw a volcano erupting. He thought it was either Glacier Peak or Mount Rainier. Well, guess what? Glacier Peak is showing activity. It's showing a lot of activity. However, Mount Rainier is showing even more than that. And Mount St. Helens south of there is also showing a lot of activity. There's also another volcano east of Mount St. Helens. It's called Mount Adams. Today, you could be lucky enough if you'd even see one tiny tremor at Mount Adams. 3 and 4 years ago, there was tons of activity at Mount Adams. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network made sure that they cut off Mount Adams because they know dadgum well that showing Mount Adams was going to tip off everybody else about St. Helens and Mount Rainier. So they literally either turned off the seismograph at Mount Adams or they turned it way down. They do both of those things. Folks, we are going to see an eruption at Mount St. Helens. It may be larger than we've ever seen before. Okay? It may be even larger than we've ever seen before. Larger than 1980 when it killed some people. And ash spread all over Washington, parts of Oregon, and out east into Idaho, and even over into Montana and Wyoming. Fact. Okay? I'm just telling you, you need to be aware of what's going on. I believe that the Cascadia megathrust earthquake is probably no more than 5 years away from hitting. A 10.0 earthquake that's going to shake Alaska, it's going to shake Canada, the United States, and down into Mexico, and possibly the entire world. Yeah, the entire Earth. When it happened last time, there was a tsunami on the west coast of North America. There was also a tsunami over in Alaska that was triggered by the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. That's why we know when it happened, because the Japanese people kept great records. We know the date and the time that the Cascadia earthquake hit. We don't know when it's going to hit again. But I believe it's going to be somewhere in the time between now and 5 years from now. Why? Because we're looking at all the rest of the activity up and down the subduction zone. We're watching it very carefully. We're watching it very carefully. Mark Stolte says Adams will cover east with ash. Oh, yeah. So will Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. Okay? Yes, it's going to happen. I promise you it's going to happen. Okay? It's going to happen, and folks, you need to know what's going on. Because like I said, lives hang in the balance. Millions of lives are going to go away. They're going to go away in the blink of an eye. They're going to go away in the blink of an eye. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not upset at anybody here. But the population of this area, all the way up into Alaska and all the way down to Mexico, is not being told anything. Very little of anything at all. Don Patoka, I blocked her. She won't be back unless she comes back as someone else. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm putting the warning voice out right now. We're seeing a lot of minor and small earthquakes hitting the Cascadia region right now. The United States Geological Survey is not even showing a quarter or even an eighth of the earthquakes they're hitting. I could show you seismograms all day long showing earthquakes all over Washington, Oregon, and even California. USGS not showing one. And if they show one, they're not showing the rest. They're just not. In northern Washington today, USGS is reporting a 0.8 microquake. A microquake. But they're not showing small quakes, they're not showing moderate quakes, and they're not showing large quakes in the United States. Laura Marie says Oregon media rarely reports any quakes. Right. Because the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network is not going to tell them, and the USGS is not going to tell them either. No one is going to find out about it until it's too late. Until it's too late. Osa, Washington, a 0.8 microquake. Unreal. A mile and a half deep. 3.6 kilometers deep, a mile and a half deep. The next one they're showing is over in Miramount, Washington, in the Puget Sound area. A 1.6 tremor. South of there, it's unreal. South of there, there's even a smaller event happening. But heaven forbid the USGS would do any more than just put it out there. It's there. It's there. Now, it's over in Buckley, Washington, by the way. A 0.7 microquake. Go figure. At Mount Rainier. They're showing another 0.4 microquake at Mount Rainier. But you and I know already that there are minor quakes, there are tremors, there are small and moderate earthquakes hitting Mount Rainier today. And all USGS will tell us, oh, they had a 0.4 microquake that was above sea level, a mile deep above sea level, a mile deep down inside that volcano. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. Over at Mount St. Helens. And I showed you the earthquakes, I showed you the tremors, and I showed you the microquakes that were hitting Mount St. Helens last night. And some of the documented evidence on the seismogram was forged by the agency. False information by the agency. OB Runner just gave us a super chat, and I want to thank you for that. Gave us a £2 super chat. Thank you so much for that. God bless you for that. We appreciate all of you who support this channel in whatever way you support it. God bless you and thank you for that. We appreciate it. It means the world to me. It means the world to everyone here. It keeps us on the air. Literally. Keeps us here. Now, folks, a lot of stuff's happening, like I said. I'm telling you about it. The agency's not. Heaven forbid that they can be honest with the American public or even the Canadian public. Everyone's going to be affected, regardless of where you live. Okay? Everyone's going to be affected. People think, oh, I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, you do. Because you, your parents, your children, and your children's children will be affected by it. Promise. Promise. I've seen it happen before. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, Ron, don't worry about it. A lot of people don't see it like me and a lot of other people do. I want everybody to know about it because I want to try to save lives here. That is why I've been doing this for as long as I've been doing it. I'm trying to save lives, and hopefully people will live for a lot longer if they're prepared. If they are prepared. Eric Morris just put something in the chat that's very important, and I'm going to share it with you. Few are called, or many are called, but few are chosen. And why are they not chosen? Because they weren't paying attention. They were not paying attention when the information was handed out. They weren't paying attention when God spoke to them. I could quote scripture all night long. And I want people to understand one thing. That each one of us has the opportunity to understand information and understand it's going to happen. And Your life depends on knowing the information. You may think you can go throughout life, and I can go throughout life, and we don't care. Well, folks, guess what? It'll come bite you in the butt. It'll bite you in the butt. Do I care? Yes, I do. Over in Idaho today, Smiths Ferry, Idaho has been hit by earthquakes for almost a month now. They become lesser and lesser earthquakes. However, they continue to get hit. 4.5 earthquake hit just about a month ago. Today, Smiths Ferry got hit by a 2.1. A minor earthquake that's probably not even felt. But USGS is at least reporting this. This is on the fault zone over in north central Idaho. It's getting hit. It's been getting hit for a long time now. West of there, Baker City, Oregon, got hit by 2.0. I looked at the Baker City seismogram earlier today. The 2.0 earthquake was not the least of their worries. Baker, Oregon was hit by a lot of earthquakes today. Earthquakes and tremors. Nothing major, nothing large, but they got hit by earthquakes today. USGS decides to report what they want to report, nothing more. East of Smiths Ferry, on the other side of Smiths Ferry, Stanley, Idaho got hit by 1.5, also in a fault zone. To the west, over in Idaho, is another area that is known to be the western side of the Yellowstone magma chamber. That area used to get hit. USGS used to tell us no more, because they know that I'll tell you about it. And I'll tell you that it is the western side of the Yellowstone magma chamber. That's why it gets hit. But they're not talking about it any longer. Interesting how that happens. Now, I'm going to go over into Montana now. Virginia City, Montana is just northeast of Yellowstone. Virginia City got hit with a 1.0 tremor today. USGS downgraded to a 0.9 microquake. Go figure. Not surprised. Closer to Yellowstone, another microquake. Interesting how that happens. A 0.6 microquake that is actually northwest of Yellowstone. USGS, in their infinite wisdom, says it's northeast of Yellowstone. No, it's not. USGS can't even get their directions right. They do it in they do it in Alaska. They do it here in Yellowstone as well. They cannot get their directions right at all. Okay? This earthquake hit just east of Hebgen Lake. Hebgen Lake is a location where in 1959 there was at least a 7.1 earthquake. Scientists believe it was an 8.0. It did not trigger Yellowstone. It did not trigger Yellowstone. It created a lot of damage there, but it did not create or set off the Yellowstone volcano. Just northwest of Yellowstone Lake, is another place called Mammoth, Wyoming. The Mammoth Geyser Basin, a 0.1 microquake. You know, I wish I could tell when USGS was going to show microquakes, but not show full-blown earthquakes. Interesting how that happens. Southeast of Yellowstone Lake, another earthquake happened in Kelly, Wyoming. Earthquakes have been happening in Kelly, Wyoming for about a month now. This one's a 1.2 tremor in Kelly, Wyoming today. Interesting. Now I'm going to go down to Utah, just east of Salt Lake City, in the Wasatch Mountains. Enterprise, Utah got hit with a 1.2 tremor, but it's not the only one. Again, USGS only shows what they want to show. Just northeast of Enterprise in Bear River, Wyoming, there was a 1.7 tremor just east of the Wasatch Mountains. For those of you that don't live in Utah, don't know, you may not have ever heard of the Wasatch Mountains. The Wasatch Mountains run from southeastern Idaho all the way down to central Utah. A huge fault zone. 7 different segments of the Wasatch Fault are there. Any one segment could get hit with a 7.5 earthquake, or the entire fault could be hit by a 7.5 earthquake. Interesting. Interesting. Because today in central Utah, Glenwood, Utah got hit by 1.6 tremor. West of there, over in the Black Rock Desert Volcano area near Milford, Utah, they were hit by a series of tremors. USGS showed 1.1 tremor. It was not the only tremor that hit over in Milford, Utah today, at the Black Rock Desert Volcano. I documented it, guys. I've been documenting activity at the Black Rock Desert Volcano for years now. I was out there at the Black Rock Desert Volcano about 4 years ago, chipping away at shale there, S-H-A-L-E, shale, splitting the shale open and finding fossils there at the volcano. Rob 52 says the Colorado high mountains are a result of uplift on faults. He's partially right. Did you know there's 3 volcanoes over there in Colorado today? Most people don't even realize even one. There's one named volcano and it goes by the name of No Name Volcano. It's over in the Rocky Mountains, just east of Denver. It's called No Name Volcano. It's on Interstate 70 over there. 2 other volcanoes comprising 3 volcanoes in Colorado. Yeah. Wild. Demon Catman, one of my mods, one of the people I respect here too, very much so. He's talking about Reelfoot Lake over in the New Madrid seismic zone, over in Tennessee on the east side of New Madrid seismic zone. Reelfoot Lake was made by the Mississippi River when the New Madrid Fault hit. Some people only believe what is written in the textbooks, that it was a 7.1 New Madrid earthquake in 1811, December 1811 into January 1812. Numerous major earthquakes hit, and very strong 6s hit, and 5s hit as well. Large 5 earthquakes hit as well. But the New Madrid 7.0 plus earthquake, and most scientists believe it was probably an 8.0 large or larger, stopped the Mississippi River from flowing for 7 minutes. The Mississippi River actually flowed northbound instead of south. It filled in a valley over there in Tennessee called now Reelfoot Lake. It's huge. I drove by that lake on Interstate 40 coming here where I live now. It's a huge camping area. People go rent cabins there. People go fishing there, having a great time with their families. Some people don't even realize why it's there. There is a town over in that area. Now, I'm not going to name the town because I don't want to give away the identity of the person. Unless you might know the person yourself, and I don't want you to put it here in the chat. The person is a mortician. He owns a major mortuary in that area, in that town. In the mortuary parking lot, there are 2 18-foot trailers. Semi-trailers parked in his parking lot, refrigerator trailers, because he knows that the New Madrid Fault is going to hit. He's also the chief coroner for the county where he lives. He's also the emergency manager. That's how I met him. Back in 2011 when I was there in Little Rock helping conduct the New Madrid earthquake drill. I talked to most of the emergency managers up and down the fault zone. That was the first drill that we ever had over there in the New Madrid fault zone. Since then, there's been another drill there that I participated through the internet. Folks, I'm telling you, that fault is going to give up again, and it's going to be very soon. Very, very soon. Vigorous Wolf is here in the chat saying it's going to liquefy the ground. It's called liquefaction. Mean the shaking of the earth at the time of the earthquake is going to bring up the water table. And all the loamy soil, the sandy soil that's in those areas, it's going to be liquefied by the water. And anything there is going to sink into the sand, like quicksand. Any power poles, any light poles, any trees, any homes, any buildings, and any cars, or anyone standing there is going to sink into the quicksand. Fact. It's going to happen in Washington, Oregon, and California as well, and Alaska when the Cascadia megathrust earthquake happens. It's going to hit in the New Madrid seismic zone as well. Liquefaction. Folks, it's going to hit. It's going to hit. People's lives are in danger, guys. I'm kidding you not. All I want to do is get the word out. Literally. I just want people to be prepared. I see activity happening all the time. I'm putting out the warning voice. In the Bible, they call it the watchman on the wall. That's where I'm at. I am just putting out the warning voice. I want to make sure that everyone is prepared. Unreal. I fear that a lot of people are going to ignore me. I've been ignored before, and that's okay. That's okay to a certain extent. What about your children? What about your grandchildren? Are they going to have enough food and water? Are they going to have enough clothes? First aid kits to nurse them back to health after they're injured? Folks, you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared. We're seeing earthquakes hitting all up and down the west coast of the United States. We're seeing earthquakes over in the western side of the Pacific, in China, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, earthquakes, India, earthquakes, Iran and Iraq, earthquakes, Turkey and Syria, 60 earthquakes a day in that region because of a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake that hit a year ago this past February, a year ago last month. And they're seeing 60 earthquakes a day still hitting, aftershocks. Some of those earthquakes are just tremors. Others are minor earthquakes, others are small earthquakes, and others are moderate earthquakes and large earthquakes. People are still getting scared out of their minds when these earthquakes are happening. Soon you are going to be among those people that are upset and scared because you have not prepared. You have not gotten things right in your own life, in your own values, to being prepared. You haven't done whatever it takes to get prepared. Do you care? Do you care? I hope you do. And no, I'm not just another conspiracy nut. Not at all. I study this information. I study it every day. I've been watching it. I know exactly what I'm talking about. You can say whatever you want. It doesn't have to be right. Whatever you say, who cares? Because you're going to be the one that suffers when the crap hits the oscillator. And then you may ask, why did I not think about what Ron said? I didn't prepare. Why was I not listening? We've been talking about earthquakes. We've been talking about tremors. Today we haven't talked about weather, but we do talk about weather as well. all the time. We have a bunch of bad weather that's hitting the central United States now. The western United States got hit last week. Now that weather's made its way over to the central United States, and pretty soon it's going to be here on the East Coast as well. Bad weather. Late last night, a huge landslide happened in Los Angeles, over off Ventura Highway. Huge landslide as a result of all that rain that hit Los Angeles during the past month. Someone lost their home completely. Other people have been made homeless, hoping, the authorities hope, that those homes can be repaired and be lived in again. But one home was under construction, trying to remodel it, and that home has been destroyed. The Los Angeles Fire Department is pumping water out of a swimming pool on the property above that, hoping to stem a further landslide, destroying that whole area. Unreal. Polly's asking, was it engineering? Possibly false engineering when that home was built there. They've been putting they've been putting homes on hills for as long as I can ever remember in my lifetime. When we moved to Southern California, my father, who was a contractor, said that there were homes up there in those hills that were going to slide down, and they are. They are sliding down because people have not paid attention. People moved there, but were not paying attention to what was going on. Now the rains have come, and those homes are sliding down the hills. Fact. This kind of activity has been happening for a very, very long time. Unfortunately, people don't listen. People aren't listening now, unfortunately. Anyway, I just saw another earthquake over in the Aleutian Island chain just now. Guess what? Remember that 4.5 earthquake off the southeast side of Kamchatka Peninsula yesterday? It's now made its way over into the Aleutian Island chain near Attu Station over in the western Aleutian Islands, and now there's a 4.1 earthquake there. 20 kilometers deep. I said it was coming. It's now hit. Folks, we need to be prepared. Just a little bit about Iceland before we leave tonight. Iceland earthquakes have calmed down. The eruption of the volcano over in Iceland doesn't look like it's going to happen very soon. It could still be imminent. It could rear its head at any time. The magma from the Svartsengi power plant, there's a huge magma chamber, I've explained this before, underneath the southern Svartsengi power plant. The magma from that magma chamber has moved north, but it stopped. The magma chamber underneath the Svartsengi power plant could explode up under the power plant and destroy the power plant. Yes, that could happen. Fortunately, it has not, because the citizens of Iceland depend on that. And the one other smaller power plant east of Reykjavik, Iceland, I should say, that is the capital of Iceland. There's only a smaller geothermal power plant there. We still expect an eruption to happen but nobody knows when. Now, why? Because, folks, the magma has to push up from where it's at in the crust of the Earth, and it's going to form a dike like this. The dike of magma is going to push its way up through the crust, through weaker rock, until it bursts from the surface, like the magma has done 4 times in the past year there in Iceland. Okay? But it still is not erupted. I want to put that information out. I think it's important. Still, we have earthquakes all over Spain, in southern Spain. We have some earthquakes in Scandinavia. We have earthquakes in France. We have earthquakes over in Europe, Italy, 20 plus earthquakes in Italy today, most in central Italy. They're everywhere. 40 earthquakes in Greece today. Go figure. They're happening. They're happening. I fully expect to see a large earthquake hit in central Greece probably sometime within the next 2 months. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. And for the Greek people, there were people killed the last time it happened. It's going to happen again. Leslie's here in the chat saying, what about America? I've been talking about America for a good portion of this program. Please go back to the beginning of the program and after we go off the air and watch our program. I've been very specific about earthquakes throughout America. I've been talking about what's going to happen and what's going to happen very soon. Okay? Polly's here in the chat saying she's grieving about this. She's leaning on her faith. I can appreciate that myself. I'm preparing and I'm also leaning on my faith and asking the Lord to bless people. Like I said 4 years ago, when it looked like the Cascadia megathrust earthquake might happen on Christmas Eve, I was down on my knees with Terry Rempel praying that the earthquake would not hit on Christmas Eve. That could still happen. Literally anything could happen. Folks, get with the program. Tomorrow we're going to talk about earthquakes. Tomorrow we're also going to talk about emergency preparedness. Please be here tomorrow night when we talk about emergency preparedness so you will know what you need to do before something happens. And it's not just an earthquake we're preparing for. We're preparing for any kind of emergency or disaster that happens. Please be here for that. That preparation could save your life or save the life of your family. I don't talk about this just to be seeing my gums flap. I don't. Mohammed, I'm going to remove that message from chat. Why? I want you to talk about what we're talking about. I want you to pay attention to what we're talking about. Okay? If you're not paying attention, you're not going to get our message. And then something bad might happen to you and your family. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. Brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell you that I believe in Jesus Christ. Most of you have heard me bear my testimony about that. I have a testimony of Jesus Christ and his gospel. At the end of my broadcasts, I share a few items that I've looked at that I thought was pertinent to what we've been talking about. Over in Hebrews, the first chapter, it talks about Jesus Christ. Paul wrote to the Hebrews here. He says, for unto which of the angels said he at any time, thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. And again, I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. And again, when he bringeth in the first begotten into the world, he saith, and let all the angels of God worship him. And of the angels he saith, who maketh his angels spirits, and his ministers a flame of fire. But under the sun he saith, thy throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is a scepter of thy kingdom. Thou hast loved righteousness and hated iniquity. Therefore God, even thy God, hath anointed thee with all the oil of gladness above thy fellows. And thou, O Lord, in the beginning hast laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the works of thine hands. They shall perish, but thou remaineth, and they shall all wax old as doth a garment. Why? Why is that so? Those people that have not prepared will perish. Those people that have prepared won't perish, but those that have not prepared may perish because they have not been listening to God. They have not been watching what was good for them, what might have saved their lives. That's why. The Lord talks to his people, even all of us, from the scriptures. To all of you, I ask, get your scriptures out. Read the scriptures. Read the scriptures. For in the scriptures you're going to find eternal life, which God defines as his. Eternal life in the kingdom of God with him and with our families. Brothers and sisters, I have read to you the scriptures from God. His apostles and prophets have written the scriptures. They're here for us. I can only tell you what I know. I can only share with you the information that I know, that I have. I can only advise you to check for yourself and find out what you can find out yourself. Find out if what I've been telling you is right. Do your own research. You don't have to believe me, but I'm putting out the warning voice. Things are happening. They're going to continue to happen. It's not going to be good. None of it ever is. My kids and my relatives in Idaho and Utah, and my friends and relatives in California and even Nevada have had bad weather. And now all of them are paying for it. Even my own children. May God bless you. May God be with you this day and always. God be with you until we meet again. If anything else happens tonight, we'll be back here on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Please also know we'll be back here tomorrow talking about things that are going on, not just landslides, not just earthquakes, but other things going on that may affect yours and my life. Please watch. Please watch. Please be here with us tomorrow night. By the way, President Trump got some really good news today. The judge in Georgia has dropped most of the charges against him that the prosecutor of Georgia and her lovers screwed it up. Screwed up. And now they're going to pay for what they did. When you do things wrong, you pay the price. Virginia Ortega says she reads the scriptures with her husband. That's wonderful. Yes, God bless us all. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. I love you very much. Bye-bye.